What was it like growing up? You
Yes.
grew up in Hong Kong and your parents ran a casino?
I physically grew up in Hong Kong, but
And-
mentally grew up in Universe. Grow up
Yeah.
in because I never.
In your fantasy?
I'm not thinking I'm living. I'm so close to the the Hong Kong background.
But your family had casinos?
Yeah, yeah.
And there was some kind of...
He is not have casino.
Underground?
She work for casino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like as a child? Were you in your...
But he's working in Macau.
Yeah?
The casino is in Macau. So that I always have to move to Macau in Sunday and Saturday to see my father, maybe just for one dinner. But I have to stay there 2 days. You know that. And I see the Beijing Opera.
Oh, really?
That's why I know Beijing Opera. Because he's sponsored the Beijing Opera.
Ah.
So that I always work with them and see their playing.
So is that like the first time you did costumes? Was it... for
No,
the-
it's not yet.
No?
The first time I do costume is when I doing photography. I always take fabrics to the studio, and the model is come, and I ask her to dress really less, and I start to put costume on her, and then I have a tailor beside me. I just one by one do the costume on the shooting.
So when you started, what came first? What was the first job you ever did? It was costumes, it was
I
theater,
think it's
it
painter,
was... Yeah?
painting.
Painting.
Yeah, it's not illustrator. It's like a painting on the wall
Like frescoes?
for movie. When the movie, I want to have a painting on the wall,
Yeah?
and I do it.
And how did you meet John Woo? That was your first film, right?
Yeah, the first film I work with, I doing a competition in the Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and they have three section. I have 2 sections. I get the golden prize at that time for painting.
doing-
Painting. One is sketch. One is they call airbrush
Yeah.
painting. Another is watercolor. But I never do watercolor, so that I only do airbrush and sketch.
Uh-huh.
And I win the golden prize for 2.
Yeah.
And then they have another director called Xu Ke. You know Xu Ke?
No.
Xu Ke is a friend of John. He's a very famous director in Hong Kong. And he looked for me to work with him. And I go to his company, and she introduced me to John.
Ah.
But at that time, I'm a student, actually.
Oh, that's great. So as a student, you worked on a John Woo film.
Yeah.
That's wild. What were you studying? Film, art?
No.
What were you studying?
At that time, there are no film study. I just study graphic
Accounting.
design, yeah, painting. That's the kind of study. I don't have chance to study movie.
So how was your relationship with John Woo as a student?
I think he is really upset at that time because he have 8 years didn't make a movie. He is in a really low, at that time it's really low moment, and so the people is not that respect him.
What was the name of the film?
A Better Tomorrow.
A Better Tomorrow.
Yeah,
And did it bring him a better tomorrow?
yeah.
Ah, good.
I think it's the most important film of China history.
Really?
One of them. Yeah.
So did you watch his personality change from making the film to...
I think he is good.
Yeah.
He's he's a good personality. Really soft personality.
So
and,
after A Better Tomorrow, what came next? You were still in
The
school.
second Better Tomorrow.
Ah, John Woo also.
They have a series of Better Tomorrow. And then, but the second one I'm not doing because I don't like that kind of movie.
Yeah, violent.
I work for another movie called Rouge. It's the
Yeah.
1930s Hong Kong. with all the decorating
Beautiful.
and qipao.
I loved it.
Yeah. I started after I do that film. I like movie because I can reproduce the time. When I do all the details, I see the movie. The totally time is reproduced.
Because you're like multi-dimensional, like
This later. At that time, I really want to do movie only. But after
which part of movies?
art direction
Art direction and sets
and costume.
and costumes.
But as my, but when I'm doing a movie, when I get the first prize of the movie, I feel that this is really difficult for me to develop my style because I always want avant-garde things, but the commercial world didn't allow me to do. So I think I'm really disappointed with movie. And then I moved to Taiwan because I have a chance. I do one Surrealist movie called Temptation of a Monk. And this one I really success to get on my stage, can start from my own language. And afterward, I have a chance to know the crazy creator people, and I moved to Taiwan at that time. I worked with many Taiwan people, Taiwan groups to develop theater. At that time, I spent 7 years to do only costume. I'm not doing set because I don't know how to control the set in Taiwan. So that I only work for costume, and I start to know the body, how the Asian body, how they describe emotion, what is the meaning of gesture, everything. And I also start to understand the world culture too at that time. I have millions of music and all the details developed. And afterwards, because they have a really good bookstore in Taiwan, so that every time I come, I will get many different culture at the same time. So at that time, it's really important for me. So that I understand the rhythm of culture, everything, how they doing, how they related, and later I start to know how they're moving. They establish some style, but they're moving, they're changing around. Sometimes mixed with something become new. The culture is really interesting.
I've never been there.
Yeah. Oh, you've never been Taiwan, right?
No, never.
Oh, Taiwan is a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time it's really good time.
So why did you leave?
But I have spent 7 years. I feel really disappointed again.
Yeah. Why?
Because the situation is so bad. It's so poor. You cannot do anything. I do designs. I can hire an assistant, and I have to do myself to getting fabrics and I find it's really difficult. So after 7 years, Ang Lee called me. You want me to help?
Oh, that was then Crouching Tiger.
Yeah. So 7 years I didn't do movie, and he asked me to help. And I come to him. And,
how did you meet him in the first place?
We have a meeting for her former movie, but I don't have time at this time. I didn't help him when I in Taiwan at that period. And afterward, I spent my assistant to help him. And afterwards, when he is doing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, he have another art director already. But the art director is not good enough for him. So that he fired the art director. But everybody crazy, who can take place? And everybody asked him to look for me. And they have some really big figures in Taiwan movie. They call me directly, and I found out, okay, there are several of them call me at the same time.
Wow.
And at that time, that's the first day holiday. And I received he asked me to come the next day.
And you did?
I come 2 more days later. But I got there, it's crazy. I just have 2 months before the shooting.
Really?
And the script is not ready. So I have any from script to everything
Wow.
to do it again.
So you did the art direction, the sets, and the costumes in 2 months.
Yeah.
No sleep.
I'm very difficult to work with him because he asks everything. It's really difficult.
But in
But
the
I like
end,
the way. I like the way.
in the end, you were pretty happy, no?
Or more than happy. It's like dreaming. Because these few years, I go anywhere, people recognize me. It's crazy. Even I'm in Italy, people recognize me.
Wow.
Even now, I'm making Marco Polo. I'm in Venice, and suddenly people coming in ask me to their restaurant because they
Really?
know me.
Wow. So what was it like when you went to the Academy Awards?
I think nobody in China history. I think we are the first one. I am the first one.
The first?
I'm the first one to be on stage.
Wow.
It's earlier than all of them.
What year was that? That was
2001. 2001.
And did you know when you went you were receiving an award?
No, you know in the nature of American and English too, they have a bunch of award at that time,
Yeah.
before Oscar. They have Global, they have many awards. So they will give you a hint that you can get it or not. So I go to Basta and I get the best costume designer. And I go on stage and
How did that feel?
at that time it's really amazing. I think it's okay because I already better than anyone I know. Right? And I get the English. But afterwards, when I go to Oscar, I think that I will get the costume. Because our competitor is Gatherator.
Which one?
Gatherator. The What's Your Clothes movie. It's really strong. The art director is really strong. Yeah. They use, I think, 50 times money from us.
Really?
50.
Wow. So in 2 different awards you got, one was a costume and one was art direction, sets.
So I think nothing better.
Yeah.
Even though the double nomination is not happened before.
Wow.
In Counting Tiger, we have 4 double nomination. 4 names is double nomination.
God.
Yeah.
So it changed your life, no?
It's really. But I find myself more because I have the freedom. I find myself is, it seems like I have some message that I'm not the same as the one before. Because when I go to this industry, they have many, really good art director in front of me. Yeah. But they have a feeling of they don't do this and they don't do that. They just want to do that.
Right.
A lot of rules. They maybe they want to keep their
Union.
style. Not union.
No.
Everybody, the Chinese people.
Yeah.
They feel they are self the best and
Right.
really strong. But sometimes I feel it's unnecessary to keep yourself so
Yeah.
and
To
then
be more real.
yeah. And I am the one who always probably try things. I never afraid of defeat and failure. So I always try things.
You're like the
They don't do that. They don't.
You're
do
like the
nothing.
astronauts. Failure is not an option.
I like the process. I like the energy. I don't care about I care, but I'm not that care. So I try many things. I'm quite dangerous.
So what were you doing in New York yesterday?
This time,
Yeah.
we talk about movie, you talk about Broadway show, and before I go to San Francisco because I have an opera
When?
in September.
This coming.
I think it's interesting. That one is a Chinese content.
Oh.
It's a dream of Red Chamber. is one of the biggest novel in China, with many costume, elaborate family,
Wow.
noble family, complicated relations.
So
That
you're
one is
doing costumes or
and set.
and sets?
And
Wow.
I'm also doing national English national ballet
Really?
in this year too, September too.
Where?
In Sadderswell.
Sadler Wells.
Sadderswell.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
London.
In London.
God.
I have 2 shows in London in September. in Sadderswell. 2 shows is my show. One show is one from China. I just finished last year, and they travel to here, to Sadderswell. And the next one is Giselle. I do the Giselle too.
So how many?
I think you will like the costume. It's really interesting.
What do
That
they
one-
like?
Yeah. It's like the wash out detail. We just have the form, but I changing the weight of the form. Become something like a dream looking, but no detail. You just have a mystery form. And I do the stage is really, I like it a lot because very simple, very powerful.
So how many projects are you working on at the same time?
I still have another show for Universe Film Studio.
For where?
It's 4 years project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one you showed me.
I
Remember?
think I never showed it because I never started yet. We are talking about I grouped a really strong team with me to work with. That one I be the director. I'm not doing design.
Didn't you show me pictures of like ideas
Yes.
for that film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also Lily also have a Japanese investor want to make a
Lily?
movie, feature movie.
With you directing it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. But that's like the.
But we are still balancing. He want to be not so totally artistic. He want something, and he is the one to making crazy movie too. So it's nice to do.
Excuse me, I'm working with Madame